How do you stay so positive? That is a question that I've been asked multiple times in multiple different forms, and especially a couple months ago. A couple months ago, it came up a few times, so I wrote it down in my notebook as one of the videos I wanted to make, but as you know, a lot of things happened in the last few months, and I just never got a chance to get around to it until now. And the simple answer to that question is, I don't. I am not always positive. There are moments, as you've probably seen in the last few weeks, especially I would say, there are moments where I am not positive. There are moments where I am negative. There are moments where everything sucks and I just want to give up, and I would give up if it was an option. I just can't, so I don't. So the simple or the simple answer is I'm not always positive. The more complex answer is, well, more complex. And it's a mixture of a lot of different things. I would say the bedrock of my positivity is just the default who I am, which is a result of, how I grew up and the influences I had around me when I was younger, whether it be my parents, my family, my friends, when I went to school, stuff like that. So it's like there's a lot of things that factor into it. But I would say that my default is pretty much being positive, because I've always found that life is much more fun, much more enjoyable when you focus on the positive as opposed to focusing on the negative. But that doesn't mean by any means or any stretch of the imagination that I'm always positive all the time. I tend to seem more positive just because that's what I focus on. So as a result of that, that is the version of me that most people see. Not to say that I'm faking. I did sometimes in the past. Now I'm like, yeah, life is too short. Faking is too much work. Same reason why I don't lie anymore. It's just like too much work. There's no point to it. It's like life is just much more simple when you're just, living out loud. That's where that concept comes from. So, that the bedrock, if you will, would be that. It's just that's default personality. It's who I am. I'm a positive person. So that definitely plays a big role. But over the years, as I kind of began this journey of falling in love with fear, which I've discussed a few times throughout my videos, it was really this principle of, overcoming my fears and being comfortable being uncomfortable, or being comfortable being uncomfortable. And, not having any situation that makes me feel like I'm out of control. Not to mean that it's like it's super important for me to always be in control, just the sense that it's like if you surrender to life, if you surrender to the unexpected things that might happen and you don't come to things with fear, then everything works out perfectly and allows you to remain positive even when quote unquote bad things happen. And as a result of going on that journey, which I don't have an exact timeline, but I would say it started pretty much when I had my first near-death experience when I was 20, and I decided to kind of, stop holding myself back and just pursue my dream of wanting to be an author and, kind of going out in the real world and starting to live. That's when the journey really began. So, I don't know, overall it's been maybe a journey of, if you consider that it started at 20, and I'm now 34, I guess it would be 14 years, but I'd say the last, 2 years maybe, I haven't really focused on that at all. It's just become part of who I am. So let's say a dozen years. And during those dozen years, I was very focused on growing as a person. So a lot of self-help, personal development. I read a lot of books, took a lot of online courses, and doing that, and read a lot of, books and audiobooks and all those things. So, consumed a lot of content, also a lot of podcasts. Never really got into YouTube, ironically, seeing how this is how I end up sharing my story, but whatever. All that to say, I consumed a lot of content and a lot of ideas, and I read a lot of stories from a lot of different people and a lot of inspiring things and stuff like that. And that kind of conditioned, once again, who I am and how I interact with the world. And that just made me even more positive than that default positivity that I've had pretty much my entire life. So it's kind of like stacking positivity on top of positivity on top of positivity. And it's like, yeah, okay, it's just like layer and layer and layer and layer, but every once in a while, life throws something unexpected at you, something difficult. And there are some of those layers that are negative instead of positive. But I would say that overall, most of those layers that I've layered and layered and layered and layered over the years that have become who I am are mostly positive. So as a result of that, my default approach to everything is just, what is the good in this? What is the benefit of this? Why is this happening? How is this going to benefit me in the future? That's always my default approach. Not to say like I ignore the negative stuff. I think it's very important to experience the emotions you have to experience, whether that's sadness or anger, frustration, whatever it is you're going through. So I'm not saying like that I'm holding back. I'm just saying I do what I gotta do, process what I gotta process, but then as quickly as I can, I kind of like flip it around, and then I look and I'm like, all right, what can I gain from this experience? Why is this happening? What can I learn from this? And having that growth mindset, that positivity mindset, is what allows me to most of the time remain in that mindset. As you've seen in the last few months, especially the last few weeks, I do have my limits. I am human. I do have my breaking points. And after months and months and months of just like crap after crap after crap after crap, it's like those layers just keep stacking and stacking and stacking, and it becomes more and more difficult to remain positive. But over the last week or so, as things are getting better, those negative layers are getting kind of deeper and deeper, and then the new positive layers are kind of like stacking back on top, and I'm kind of reverting back to my default positive self of who I am. So that's kind of the more complex answer. So I'm not always positive, even though that may be the impression that some people get from me. But, you know, it's like that is my default. So I understand why people would have that perception of me. But it is by no means true in the sense that I am not always 100% positive. I am probably more positive than a lot of people just because it's something that I find important, something that I find very valuable as a skill to have, and I find it makes life more enjoyable, so it's something I put a lot of energy and attention into, and as a result, it kind of became who I am. But there are moments that suck. There are moments that I just feel like giving up, and it's like, there are times where I actually do give up, even though it's just temporary, because I know in certain situations, giving up simply is not an option, but sometimes giving up does give you that stress relief, which then allows you to kind of get back up and keep fighting and not give up in the long run. So I don't really know if this is an answer. It feels kind of like a non-answer, but it's the best answer that I can give simply because there isn't one thing that completely like changed my life and from that moment on I was positive all the time. It's like, no, it's just a lot of work. Like anything in life, you know, it's very rare that something's gonna happen like snap and it changes everything. It has happened to me in the past, like, you know, a few months ago when I had that shift in perspective and I just kind of like was able to release everything and completely surrender, and it did happen in that snap moment. But those are very rare, and that's not what happened when it came to positivity for me. It was just something that I don't know, something I've always liked, I've always enjoyed, so I always cultivated it, worked on it, and it just became who I am. But, you know, there are ups and downs, so it's all part of life. So hopefully that answered the question, and if not, well, sorry, I can't really give a better answer than that. So thank you for watching, and I'll check back in with you tomorrow. Ooh, I missed the button. It's been a while.